Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to another The Silver Bayonets Battle Report. Today I'll be playing a solo scenario, homebrewed by me, using my Austria warband. As you can see, this will be taking place in a boggy swamp. So movement will be a heavy factor in this game. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the warband. And here is my warband, being led by my officer here in the center, Archduke Charles. He has the attributes of great faith and inspiring. His equipment is a fencing weapon, pistol, rifle, silver weapon, salt bag, and cartridge box. He also has a leg wound from a previous adventure, so his speed is 5 inches. Next up, we have Von Lucas, my vampire. He is, as I said, a Dampier. He has damage reduction 1. He's strong, indefatigable, and he also has the jitters, also from a previous adventure. Maybe he's a little blood deprived. He has a fencing weapon, pistol, cold iron weapon, silver shot, and that is it. Next up we have Maximilian in the back, my occultist. He is spells and supernatural veteran. He has a hand weapon, oil and torches, and a holy symbol. And then moving on, we have my 2 infantrymen here in the back. We have Jonas and Sam. They are both your generic infantrymen. No extra attributes. They haven't leveled up that far yet. And then lastly, we have our newest addition that I recently added in the last game. We have my rifleman, Thomas. And he's just a basic rifleman with a rifle and cartridge box. He served me well last mission, so hopefully he does that again. Alright, so with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the scenario and begin the game. Near the Danube, there lies a vast swamp, said to be a deserter's sanctuary, but also said to hold a fountain that can heal any wound. Some say it's the Fountain of Youth. Others say it's just a rumor created by the deserters to lure in victims. Regardless, you have been tasked with investigating this fountain and bringing back a flask of its waters. Alright, Archduke Charles and his group of men have now entered the swamp to grab a sample or a flask of the fountain water in the center of the board. That is their mission. There are as well 4 clue markers on the board and a French deserter guarding each clue marker. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and start with my rifleman. He's going to just stand still and take a shot at this Frenchman right here. So he has a +2 to his accuracy. That is a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, which defense of 13. Nope, that will miss that. that Frenchman there. Alright. And then he's just going to stand there so he can reload. And then we'll move on to my next infantryman. He's just got a +1 to accuracy. He's going to take a shot at that guy as well. And that's a 10, 11 as well, also a miss. And then he's going to move forward. So moving through the water, he's at half speed. So he'll get to there. Alright. And then my last activation is, we'll go ahead and activate this infantryman over here, Jonas. He's going to take a shot at that infantryman over there, the Frenchman. And that's a 9, also a miss. And then he will sprint or move forward 3 inches. Alright. And then I'll get some smoke markers for them. That is half my activation. So we now move on to the deserters. Alright, starting with this Frenchman here. He's going to fire at my Austrian infantryman here, Sam. And that is an 11, +1 for 12, which just misses Sam. So that Frenchman will have a smoke marker, and then he will move towards Sam. Right there. And then moving on over here, this guy, he's going to shoot at Jonas, being the closest target. And that is a 14, 15, which will hit. That'll be 5 damage to Jonas, which will bring him down to half health. Yep. Bringing him down to 5. So lucky shot there. And then he's going to move towards them. So 2 inches. We'll get him there. Another 4 inches, which will just get him 2 more inches in the water. Right about there. Alright. Then I'll get them a smoke marker, and then we'll move on over here to this guy. He's going to shoot at the closest target, which is also Sam over here. And that is a 12 +1, 13, which just hits him as well, doing 8 damage. Ouch, that one hurt. I think I'm going to try to reduce this with my 1 power die. Nothing. So I failed that, so I'm going to reduce it by half. So he'll take 4 points of damage instead, putting him at 6. Alright, and then moving on to the well, actually, he's going to move 3 inches. And then moving on to the last deserter, taking a shot at Jonas here. That's a 9 +1 for 10. That one will miss. And then he will move towards them as well. Alright. And then with that, we will activate the rest of my team. Alright, first off, we're going to start with Archduke Charles. He's just going to move a total of 2.5 inches. And then he's going to sprint. It's a 7, 8, 9. It's a 10. I think I just needed a 10. Let me double check. If not, it's just 2 inches. Alright, that was a failed sprint. I needed 11, so we just moved up 1 more inch through the water. And then moving on over here, my Dampier, he's going to move up to here and then fire his pistol at that guy right there. So what do I need? I have a +1 accuracy, okay, which will get counteracted by my movement. And that's just an 11, which will miss, sadly. Alright. And then moving on to my occultist, he's going to move forward 3 inches and then attempt to sprint. Also getting a 10, so that'll just be another inch out of the water here. And then that is the end of phase or turn 1. Alright, start of round 2. The commotion of the musket fire and the movement through the swampy waters has attracted a fresh or a new creature into this chaos here. In the corner, a giant leech emerges from the water looking for its next victim. So, with that, we will continue on with our activation. So, I'm going to start off with my occultist, Maximilian. He is going to see the giant leech coming out of the water, heading straight for him, and he's going to use his action to curse it. So, this will be a courage check on the leech. 9, 10, 11. It gets a +1 to its courage for 12, which will fail, giving that leech a -1 modifier. So that's something going for me. And then he is going to spend his full movement to head for the clue marker. Alright, moving on. We're going to do... Who do I want to do next? We're going to go with my Von Lucas, my Dampier here. He's just going to go running straight into him for some melee combat. And that'll do it. That's a good hit. That is 17 plus 2. Okay. 19. Definitely hit. Dealing, he has a fencing weapon, so I will deal 8 damage with my skill die, being the white one. And then he is strong, so I'll deal an additional damage for... okay, so 9 damage total, which almost takes him out. And then he will swing back. Oh no. Getting a 16 hit on Von Lucas as well. Sticking him with his bayonet. That'll definitely hit him. And deal 7 damage to Von Lucas. Let's see here. He has a damage reduction of 1, so okay, so he'll take 6 damage for that mighty melee clash. Alright, moving on to my last activation before the monsters and the deserters activate. I'm going to do Archduke Charles. He's also going to, you know what? He's going to fire his pistol into this guy. That was a 4. With a 10, that's 14. Plus 1. 15. And then the pistol is a power die. So that'll do 10 damage, which is enough to... Yep. Takes out 1 deserter. Some good shooting. Alright. And then he's just going to move 6 inches this way. We're just going to say this little swampy area will not be difficult around ground. It'll just be considered solid ground. So with that, he moves forward, and then that ends the activation phase for my Austrians. Alright, for the leech and deserters, we'll just go ahead and start with the leech. He's going to move 5 inches towards Jonas here. He obviously won't be hampered by the water. And then moving over here to this deserter, he's going to reload and then charge into Von Lucas to try and finish him off. So, swing, and that's a 14. That's gonna hurt. Plus 1 to melee, so 15, which is enough. Just barely enough to penetrate. But wait, 14 plus 1 for 15, minus 1 for fatigue, which is a 14, still hits him. Okay. So that'll be another 7 damage, which a damage reduction is 6. Will finish him off, so I'm going to go ahead and spend my other skill die to try to reduce the damage. And that's a 6, so that'll just reduce it by half for just 3. It'll go down to 4, minus 1 for damage reduction, so he just takes 3, leaving him to 3 left. Getting another fatigue marker, and then Von Lucas is going to swing back. And that is an 11 plus 2. 12, 13. And then minus 1 for fatigue. I might be getting it backwards. It might be minus 1 to defense. Let me double check. Okay, double checking. It's actually both minus 1 defense and melee. So with a plus 1 to my attack, that brings it to 12. And then they don't get the second fatigue until the end of the activation. So minus 1 to the defense of the bandit or the deserter, which brings his defense down to 12 from 13. So that does hit. And that will finish him off with the 1. Another deserter down. Alright. And then that was that deserter's phase. And then we move on over here to this guy back here. He's going to reload and then head towards Archduke Charles. Right about there. And lastly, this guy over here is also going to reload and move 3 inches this way. He'll start making his way on the land. Alright. And then that is the monster activation. So we then go back to the rest of my party. Alright, for the rest of my party, starting with Jonas over here, he's going to reload his rifle, or his musket, and then move 3 inches this way. And then over here, just my other 2 riflemen and infantrymen, he's also going to reload with his action and move maybe 2 inches on the land, giving him another 4 inches of movement. running up to back up Archduke Charles. And then my rifleman here, he's going to look towards the leech and take a shot at it. And that is a 7. That's a 7 plus 3, so 10 plus 2, so 12 for a defense of 12 on the leech, dealing 7 damage with the skill die. Not bad. Bringing it down to 5 health on that leech. Nice. Good shooting. And then he's going to continue to stay there to draw any other attention and reload. Okay, and then that is the end of the turn 2. So now go to the next round. Alright, starting of round 3, another leech has come onto the board over here in this quarter. Far away from anybody, but who knows, maybe he will catch up. Alright, so now activating half my units. We're going to go start with Archduke Charles. He's going to move over here. And he's going to search that clue marker. So let's see what we got. The 10 of spades. Let's see what we got for the 10 of spades. A giant tadpole. Must be the spawn of something terrifying. Use it as leverage. Gain +1 power die or skill die. Alright, I will take a skill die. Alrighty. Continuing on, we will go with this infantryman here. He's going to spend his action to fire at this deserter over here. That is a 9, 10, an 11 with his accuracy, which will miss, unfortunately. Having no luck with my shots so far. And then he is going to move 6 inches in that guy's direction to try and guard Archduke Charles. Alright, and then my last activation, we'll go ahead and do the other infantryman, Jonas. He's also going to fire at the other deserter. He is coming over the hill, so we'll give him cover. So that'll just be a -1 to my modifier. It's an 8 plus 3, that is 11, +1 -1, so just an 11, which will also miss. My infantrymen cannot hit to save their lives. That is unfortunate. Okay, you know what? He's just going to stay there just so he can reload. Alright, and that is half the activations. So we now go to the monsters and deserters. Alright, starting over here with the leech. I forgot that it has damage reduction too. So I put it back to 7. And then starting with the leech, his activation is just going to move towards Von Lucas to try and slurp out his blood. So taking a bite out of him for an 8 and +2 in melee, so a 10, which will miss. Von Lucas blocking with his rapier, and then Von Lucas is going to strike back, getting a 6 in return, which is also a miss. The leech will take a step back, and they will both get some fatigue. Alright, and then moving on over here. This deserter here is going to fire at my infantryman, Sam. And that is a 12 plus 1 for 13, which is enough to hit Sam for 7 damage. I have a skill die. I could try to reduce the damage, but sacrifices must be made. Sam goes down as the first casualty of this game. And then he is going to move 4 inches this way. 2 inches for the water, and then another 4 inches of standard movement. Alright, he's going to try and finish off Archduke Charles next round. And then that leech over there is just going to move in this direction. And then for this guy over here, he's going to take a shot at Maximilian. That is a 6-7, which will miss. And then he's going to move 6 inches over here. Just put him up there for now. He's at the foot of the hill. And then that ends my, ends the monster activation. Back to the rest of my group. Alright, continuing with the other half of my group. We're going to start with Von Lucas here. He's going to go charging into the leech. Try and take it out. And, ooh, that's a critical. Which should definitely take him out. What do we got here? Additional 2 points of damage. Okay, so that's, well, 10 damage plus an additional 3 from his strength. That'll definitely take out the leech. So he takes out the leech in one fell swoop with his rapier. That'll give him, no, only 1 fatigue since he's indefatigable. And then he'll use, okay, so that ends his turn. And then we'll move on over here to Maximilian. He's going to move up to the next objective marker. He's not going to search it. He's going to instead do another curse on that deserter. So check with the deserter. He fails with a 6. So he's now cursed, taking a -1 to his actions. And then lastly, we have my rifleman, Thomas. He's now going to shift his focus over here to cover Archduke Charles, firing at that deserter. And that is a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with his +2, which is still a miss. He is not getting him lucky. And then he's going to stay still to reload. All right. And with that, we go to round 4. Alrighty, I don't know if the audio caught on that last recording, so just to recap, Archduke Charles, he took a shot at this deserter with his rifle, missed, went into combat, and they both did 0 damage to each other. And then I moved on to Thomas here, who stood still and took a shot at this guy up here as he didn't want to risk taking a shot at Archduke Charles. Managed to get a hit, dealing 8 damage, and then he stood still to reload. And then we moved on to my final activation, which is going to be Maximilian, who's going to use his action to search that investigate that objective marker. And I got the Jack of Spades. What does that reveal? A beautiful woman emerges from the water, placing a jeweled amulet in her hands before slipping beneath the water again. +1 skill die. Alright. That'll come in handy. And then with his movement, he's going to just move over to the foot of the hill to prepare for this guy coming down at him. That is half of my group's activation. We now move on to monster activation. Alright, and at the start of the monster phase, we're going to go over here to this leech, who's just going to move forward towards Von Lucas. And then over here, this deserter is going to reload and then move to engage Maximilian. Taking a swing on him, getting a -1. And that is a 12 + 1 for 13, -1, back to 12. Maximilian has armor, defense 13. Alright, so that will miss Maximilian, and then he will swing back, getting a 14 plus nothing to melee. Just a straight 14, which will hit, dealing 9 damage, which will finish off that deserter for another kill. Alright. And then lastly, over here, this last deserter is going to reload and go charging in to Archduke Charles. Also a -1 for fatigue, and that will be a 9, which will miss. And then Archduke Charles is going to swing back, also missing, gaining both of them a fatigue. And then the last monster we have is the leech down there, which is going to move forward. And then with that, we go to my rest of my activations. Alright, and for my last remaining activations, we just have these two over here. We're going to start with Jonas here. He's going to move 3 inches this way onto dry land, and then he's going to sprint with a 18. That'll do it. Give him an additional 4 inches getting to the base of the hill towards the fountain. And then Von Lucas here, he's just going to go right into the leech to fight it off. And that'll do a 9, 10, 11 with his melee, which is +2. And then back down to 10 for the fatigue, which will miss, unfortunately. And then the leech will take a bite out of him for a 6, which will also miss. And then he will back off, gaining another fatigue to Von Lucas. And then with that, we go to round 5. Alright, at the start of the next round, we'll activate half my units. So we're going to start over here with Jonas, who is quite eager to get to the fountain. So he's going to get to the fountain and use his action to grab a flask of the fountain's contents, achieving our objective now just to get it off the board. But as he brings the contents out of the fountain, something large, slimy, and big comes crawling up out of the waters towards him. The fountain guardian has now emerged out of the water, a giant frog, which will proceed to make sure nobody gets away with the fountain water. So the main boss has now appeared. So with that, we will continue on, starting with Maximilian next. He, seeing the giant frog come crawling out of the water, is going to go ahead and curse it. So that frog will do a check. That was a 6, plus 4 is 10, plus 2 to his courage is 12, which will fail. So that fountain guardian will get 1 curse die. And then we activate my last one, which will be, we're gonna do Thomas over here. So he's going to move 3 inches in this direction to get a line of sight on that deserter there to hopefully free up Archduke Charles. So he's gonna take a shot. And another 9 plus 1 for his accuracy, minus 1 for moving is another miss. And then with that, we go to monster activation. Alright, and for the monsters, we're going to start with this leech over here, who's going to go into Von Lucas, try and take another bite out of him. That is a 11 plus 2. Which is a 13, which just misses Von Lucas. It's a 13 down to 12 because of the fatigue. Von Lucas's defense of 14 goes down to 13, which will miss. And then Von Lucas will take a strike back. Hopefully, no, that's another 8. That'll definitely miss. Let's see, 8. 9, 10, yeah, that'll miss. Alright, so they just bounce off of each other. The leech will get another fatigue. Von Lucas will not, as he is indefeatable. And then we move on to the other 2 leeches in the corners. I won't be able to do anything, so they're just going to move forward. So we just go to the Fountain Guardian here, which is going to fire his tongue into poor Jonas here. So, taking a shot. Oh no. That is a 16 plus 3, which will definitely hit, dealing just 6 damage, but that will take him out. So I'm going to go ahead and roll one of my skill die. Nope. So I'll just do 3 damage instead, bringing Von Lucas, or Jonas over here, to 2 health remaining. And then the Guardian is going to move in to try and swallow poor Jonas. And that is an 8, 9, 10, 11, 11, 12, 13, back down to 12 because of the curse. And that will just miss Jonas as he manages to dodge the mouth of the Fountain Guardian. And then he's going to take a stab at it with his bayonet. Ooh, getting an 18. That'll do it for sure. Dealing just 10 damage. It doesn't have any armor or damage reduction. So he does a mighty 10 damage to the Fountain Guardian, bringing it down just 4 health remaining. That was a lucky shot. A lucky stab with the bayonet. And then the frog will back off, gaining 1 fatigue, as will Jonas. Alright, and then the leeches move forward, and we will activate the rest of my group. Alright, and for the rest of my group, I'm going to start with Archduke Charles. He's going to reload his pistol, and then he's going to just start moving back 5 inches as the water flask has been obtained. Hopefully they're going to make a fighting retreat. And then lastly, over here, Von Lucas is going to try and continue holding off this leech. So he's going to first off, he's going to use his action to reload. I should have been doing that. And then he's going to move in to attack. Getting a 12 plus 2 to his melee down to 1. So 14 down to 13. Which will definitely hit the leech this time around. And only doing 2 damage with a damage reduction of 2. So he does nothing. I'm going to spend my last skill die to reroll. A 6, I'll take it. That'll do 4 damage to the leech if I don't have any extra. Let's see. Nope. Nothing there. Okay. So just 4 damage done to the leech. Bringing it down to 8. And then with that is the rest of my activation. We go to the next round. Alrighty. On the top of the next round, more leeches are starting to swarm onto the board as things are getting quite dangerous. So starting off over here, I forgot to get rid of their fatigue dice. We're just going to go ahead and start with Jonas here, who is going to run 6 inches this way and then proceed to sprint to get as far away from that Fountain Guardian as possible. Getting a 16, that'll do it. That'll get him an extra 4 inches, which will get him into the water and that much closer to the board edge. Next up, we're going to do Maximilian, who's going to curse that frog again. Another check, which the frog fails, getting another curse die. And then he is going to move 6 inches back as well, retreating with Jonas, providing backup for him to help him get off the board. And then my last activation will be, we're just going to go with Von Lucas over here, who's going to go charging in. Actually, he's going to fire his pistol at the leech, getting a 11 plus 1 minus 1. I think because of the jitters. I forgot about the jitters. I think that reduces his accuracy by 1. So that will miss. Oh well. He'll go in with the rapier. And then take a swing on that leech. Also missing. Unfortunate. Alright, and then leech will fighting back. Getting a 9, 10, 11. That will miss as well. Alright, so they keep fighting each other. Let's take a step back. So he's just going to hold off that leech while Jonas makes his escape with the flask. Alright. And that is it for my first half of activations. We now go to the monsters. Alright, starting with the last deserter here, he's going to take a shot at Archduke Charles. Getting a 9, 10 with his accuracy. That'll miss. And then he's going to give chase. Moving 6 inches, which will get him in. So he's going to do a little bayonet charge on Archduke Charles. And take a stab at him. For an 11, 12 with melee, which will miss. And then Archduke Charles is going to stab him back with his saber. Ooh, getting a 9. Plus 2 with his melee, which will definitely hit, dealing 9 damage to him. Bringing him down to 1 health remaining. And then he'll back off, gaining a fatigue for both of them. And then moving on to the leech over here. Just going to go in on Von Lucas as the fight continues. That's a 10. 10 plus 2 for 12, minus 1 for the fatigue for an 11, which will miss. Von Lucas takes a stab back, also getting a 10. Plus 2, back down to 11, which also misses. Yep. Alright, so they continue to fight each other. And then lastly, we have the Fountain Guardian, who is not in range to attack with his tongue. So he's just going to move towards the nearest, which is a whopping 7 inches, as he takes a giant frog leap over here, giving chase to these two over here. Alright, and then the rest of the leeches will continue moving in, and then we will go to the rest of my activations. Alright, and for the rest of my activations, starting with Archduke Charles, he's going to take out his pistol, and instead of shooting the deserter, he's going to cover his the rest of his group and shoot at the Fountain Guardian. Getting a 14 to hit with a plus 1 to his accuracy, to a total of 15, which will hit the frog, and dealing 7 damage, taking it out as he blasts the Fountain Guardian right through the eyeball, taking out that giant frog for a nice victory shot for him. And then he's going to use his full movement to make his way off the board, if he can get there. And lastly, over here, Thomas, he's going to reload his rifle and then make his way towards the board edge to provide cover fire and make his escape when he needs to. Alright, and then with that, we go to the next round. Alright, at the start of the next round, another leech came onto the board right on this corner, really starting to gang up on Von Lucas over here. So we continue with my first activations, starting with Jonas, trying to get him off the board. He's going to move 3 inches. And then he's going to attempt to sprint. Not getting his target number, so he just moves a total of 2 inches, reduced down to 1. Just that much closer to the board edge. And then we go to Maximilian. He's going to do the same thing, 3 inches, but instead of sprinting, he's going to do another curse on that leech right there. And then courage check by the leech fails, so that leech will get a reduced to his attacks. And then my last activation will do Thomas over here. He's going to take a shot at this deserter to try and take him out. That's a 9 plus 1. So that's 10, 11, 12, which will miss, unfortunately. Alright. Not much else he can do here, so he is just going to sit there and reload. And then with that, we go to the monster's activation. Alright, starting with the Deserter, he's going to reload with his action. And then he's going to sprint at Archduke Charles, try and fight him again. Trying to stab him again with his bayonet. Oof. That is a 14 plus 1 for 15. That'll definitely hit him for 8 damage, bringing him down to 5 health remaining. Archduke Charles is going to take a swing back with his saber and misses. That's alright. He's going to back off. And then over here, this leech is going to go in on Von Lucas. Take a bite out of him. Oof. And I think he just did it. That's another 14 plus 2 for 16. Minus 1, back down to 15, which will hit Von Lucas. And that'll deal 6 damage to him. So even if I reduced it with my last skill die, unless I rolled a 10, he will go down. So I'm just going to save it. Von Lucas gets swarmed by the leeches and goes down as my second casualty. Hopefully he will make it to safety. And then this leech over here is just going to start moving in this direction towards the rest of the group. And that is the end of the monster phase. These guys will move up, continuing to give chase. And then I'll activate my last unit. Alright, starting with my last activation, it's just Archduke Charles. He is going to move to the board edge with his 3 inches. And he's going to make his escape, trying to sprint off. That'll do it. And he will exit the board to safety. And then we will move on to the next turn. And for the next turn, we just have 3 guys left, so I'll go ahead and activate my first 2. We'll start with Jonas here. He's going to make it to the board edge, and then with his sprint, he will exit the board edge with the water flask. And then next up, we have Maximilian here. He's going to make it right about there, and he's going to attempt to sprint, getting a 12, which is enough to get him off the board as well. Great. And then with that, we go to the monster activation. The only thing that'll be able to do anything will be the deserter here. So he's just going to take a shot at Thomas with his musket, getting a 6 plus 1 plus another one with accuracy, which will miss. And then he's going to start moving towards him. Another 4. Okay, that'll get him for 4 inches of movement. We'll get him 2 inches. We'll get him right there. Not enough for a bayonet charge. And then that is it for the monsters that can do anything. And then the last activation is just Thomas here, who's going to go ahead and exit the board to safety. And with that, we come to the end of the scenario. The group, suffering a couple casualties, managed to escape with the flask. So now they will bring it back to the palace and Archduke Charles will give it to his brother and see if it has magical healing capabilities. Alright, so let's go ahead and roll for casualties, see if anybody gets injured or hopefully not die. Alright, our only 2 casualties for this scenario was Infantryman Sam and Von Lucas the Dampier. So let's go ahead and roll with Von Lucas first. And that is a 10, just a flesh wound. He will recover next game at full health. So his vampire healing comes into play. And then for Sam, that is a 6, also a flesh wound. So with that, the group manages to recover and take no serious injuries. And with that, we come to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, guys.